let's look at it. He has some legacies. 200 days in office, and you can look at several things that he did. And in the last 60 years or so, since independence, the time Murtala went in office is one that was regarded as one of the most decisive for any leader that's led this country. You look at issues relating to anti-corruption, civil service restructuring, creation of state, relocation of the federal capital, review of the third national development plan, the foreign policy, transition to civilian rule. He had all of these bold initiatives and plans, but he was assassinated, and he couldn't continue with all of that. But let me pick on the issue of anti-corruption. In 1975, Murtala dismissed over 10,000 public officials in a sweeping anti-corruption purge and enacted the Corrupt Practices Decree number 38. 50 years later, Nigeria ranks for 145th out of 180 on Transparency International's 2024 Corruption Perceptions Index. What lessons from his style do you think we could learn, glean on anti-corruption work and can still work in today's Nigeria?
I think what's failed
and what
in
do you
this
think has failed?
Upbringing. The truth is, many people that you have in public office today were simply not well brought up. You know, when I was in King's College in Form 1 and Form 2, we had a class called Civics. And Civics was taught by the principal of King's College himself, RSG Agibukema. So from a very young age, you taught certain values. You taught the importance of honesty and integrity. You taught the importance of human rights. You know it's important to leave a good name. You know that when you go into public office, it's an opportunity to serve. You don't go into public office in order to make money. Now, many of the people that have assumed office since then simply did not have that upbringing. They did not have that training. And many people go into government for the wrong reasons. You do not go into government to make money. If you want to make money, you become a businessman. Aliko Dangote is the richest man in Africa. He has never been a commissioner or a governor or a minister. So I think the entire value system of the country has been eroded. We have been ruled by people who have no values, people who come from, they have no names behind them, and they have no desire to leave a name after them. These are people who define themselves by what they own, how many houses they have, how many private jets they have, how many billions they have in bank accounts. And they think that is something. It is not important to them that people look at them and they only see thieves, they see criminals, they see people who have taken away the Commonwealth. It is simply not important because for them, the values do not matter. So I think we need an entire regeneration of values. It is not about one person. The president or the governor or a minister cannot on his own change this country. But I mean, look at our religious leaders, how they've become. They've also you know, they become sycophants. They've become praise singers for money. Traditional rulers have lost it. You know, everybody seems to have jumped on this bandwagon where money seems to be an end in itself. And unfortunately, a society in which material wealth, no matter how you get it, is respected, is glorified, where people who are known to have stolen money get rewarded with ministerial appointments, with senatorial appointments, that society will continue to reproduce itself. We do not have any, we don't have a sense of disgust for people who hold public office and amass wealth. We reward them with appointments, with more public office and more opportunities to amass wealth. And this is what Nigeria has become. Could it have been addressed by one man? I don't think so. Can it be addressed by 100 men? I don't think so. I think as parents, as citizens, we are all responsible. As leaders, we are all responsible. We have to continue stressing the importance of values, the importance of a sense of what is important in life beyond material wealth. We are all going to die. No matter how much money you have, you will die and you'll be buried, and there's nothing. You'll take nothing with you. And people simply do not understand that. People in their 70s and 80s are still looking for money. I don't know what they're going to do with it. So that's really the problem.
So So you look at it, there are ways that other countries of the world, like China, and perhaps I'm personally not suggesting whether or not Nigeria should go in the way of China in fighting corruption. But you have been in public life for a long time. You've been in private sector. You know that civil service is a major problem when it comes to aiding and abetting corruption in this country. There are those who say you can't steal money in government without the help of the civil servants. From your own experience, how best do you think we can tackle corruption head on, such that anyone who passes through the corridors of power or in civil service and public life will be scared to touch government money?
I think our civil service
common patrimony of this country.
Always given the rough end of the stick. At the end of the day, when you have so emasculated the civil service and placed the civil service under political control, politicians destroy the civil service. My father was a federal permanent secretary. At the time he was permanent secretary, the permanent secretaries were more powerful than the ministers. They were the chief accounting officers, and they had complete independence. Okay, so I'll give an example, even with General Murtala Mohammed. You know, people talk about 10,000 civil servants being purged. Do you know that not a single civil servant in the Ministry of External Affairs was removed? And simply because when my father was told to bring a list of people who were to go, he said he had nobody. And they gave him a list of people, and he checked their files. They had done nothing wrong. He said, under the civil service rules, I cannot retire them, and I cannot tell them to go. And at one time when he was called and said, look, every ministry has brought names of people who were to go. You also need to bring names. He said, if you force me to bring names, I'll be #1 on that list. I mean, if you look at the biography of Ambassador Olushanu, it is there. My father simply said, nobody in my ministry has done anything wrong, and nobody will go. And nothing happened to him. Okay, civil servants, okay, had that protection. If Murtala Mohammed sacked civil servants, it was because the permanent secretaries at that time decided not to abide by the civil service rules. And so it's not the leadership per se, but those who were supposed to say no. I've always said there is something fundamentally wrong with a public officer who does the wrong thing and says he was ordered to. I was governor of Central Bank. If anybody called me to say do something wrong, I had a responsibility to say, no, sir, this is against the law. This is not how it is done. And no leader, if you face him and tell him, will tell you go and do it. Nobody would write that he's directing you to disobey the law. So the civil service will have to remain the backbone for the regeneration of this country's values. And the best way to do this is to protect civil servants. How many permanent secretaries can say no to the minister? How many permanent secretaries can say no to the president without being fired, without being removed, without being persecuted? And therefore, people have come to believe that the only way they can keep their jobs is to watch. So if the political leadership sends a signal, and I've seen this, even in the central bank, I had staff, okay, the most wonderful, most intelligent staff in the country, as far as I'm concerned. Now, if you set a direction, they will do exactly what you want them to do, because they're not going to risk their jobs and their careers, okay, standing on principle when they know that they are not going to be protected by the system. Even if they were to be fired unjustly, it will take them decades to get justice, even in the courts. So they don't trust the institutions. So we need to go back to strengthening the civil service, to supporting the civil service, to empowering civil servants, and teaching them that they can say no if they are asked to break a rule, and nothing will happen to them. Now, that is really the crux of the matter.
Where you love to talk about and where you're passionate, and perhaps that's how we're going to anchor, and it's about the economy. We know that the man that we're talking about in focus, Murtala Mohammed, was he made some economic decisions. And you look at it, when Murtala Mohammed was in power in 1975, Nigeria's oil boom was rising, population was about 60 million, and governance challenges were primarily civil service inefficiency. Today, we have over 200 million citizens at 33% inflation rate and deep poverty in our land. If you look at it critically and truthfully tonight, Your Royal Highness, where do you think we should go? What are the right steps to ensure that the people, the poorest of the poor, are given some kind of succor and our economy can bounce back. What do you think we should be doing today?
Well, I mean, look, I'm known to have spoken for a long time on the economy and to have warned over a decade ago that this is where we're headed. I don't think anyone who studied economics is surprised that Nigeria is where it is today. We spent decades pursuing policies that were destined to bankrupt the economy. We refused to listen. Every argument, every rational argument against the path that we're following was met with resistance. Those who controlled the narrative were the beneficiaries of this system of rent-seeking. And therefore, anyone who was seen as a threat to that system was a target. Okay, I have faced a lot of persecution for my views. So I'm not surprised as where we are. If you go back to Murtala Muhammad ideologically was a bourgeois nationalist. He was not socialist, he was not a communist, he was a bourgeois nationalist. To the extent that he pursued policies that did not really confront capitalism, but tried to ensure that the capital in the country was transferred to the hands of Nigerians. It was part of his anti-colonial struggle. So when you look at the indigenization decrees, when you look at opening up the economy to Nigerians, the idea was to create a Nigerian capitalist class that would take over from imperialism. And I think this was his major ideological shift from a neo-colonial system to a bourgeois nationalist system. Yes, Sean.
We're totally out of time, but it's a pleasure, a very great one, speaking with you and reminiscing on the memories and the times and legacies of Murtala Muhammad, a man that you had a personal relationship with. Thank you so much indeed, Your Highness Muhammad Sanusi.